Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hunter Base podcast. What do Maverick Hunters do when they're not hunting Mavericks? They go back to the base, recharge, and shoot the shit. I'm your host with the most, Zeromaster, and with me today, we have a very special guest, one of the new rising stars of the YouTube gaming spectrum. It's the ultra healthy video game nerd. Thanks for coming by.
Hi, thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
If healthy is too long, you can call me Chris.
I was going to say, I think I heard you say your name once before. So I was going to say, was it Chris or was it something else?
Yeah.
It was either Chris or Charlie that were in my head. So I'm like, it's one of those two. So, all right. But for those of my audience who don't quite know who you are, do you want to explain a little bit about your series, Chris, and what you do on YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. So I live in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hardcore into retro gaming, always have been. About a year and a half ago, I decided I wanted to try to do this YouTube thing, wanted to try to review games. And so I've been reviewing games that, generally are not particularly well known by English-speaking gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Even sometimes, deep hardcore gamers who are into imports, there's still, it's a very, very deep.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that, and kind of really the reason this is all happening, and I'm here right now with you, is because of this Hong Kong 97 history video. So if you don't know Hong Kong 97, it's kind of a long story, but basically it's a very rare game, and I found a copy about a year ago.
Yeah.
And up until then, it was so rare that people didn't really believe there were real copies.
Yeah, that's the thing, because like you got technically an official copy of the game. I mean, there's no real official, I guess, copies. I guess it's still a game that was bootlegged on the system, but as official as you can get, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's great that you mentioned that, because that's actually. It's surprisingly enough, that's actually how I found your channel. A real shocker, right?
All right. Yeah. Well, so before I put up that video, I had 700 subscribers.
Yeah, you were saying
a year and a half of hard work, and probably 10 days after I put up the video, I had 10,000.
Yeah, I remember you had 5,000 when I subscribed to you, and then I have a million tabs open in my browser, like a million. So I kept your channel open because I'm always looking for channels that have something new and interesting for me to check out and import stuff. I've been importing games for probably the past 5-6 years, but I'm still new to the whole thing. I obviously can't speak Japanese, so that's part of the barrier. But your channel had a lot of interesting stuff, and I was like, hey, I want to check this out. And I went back. I think I went back a day later, and you were up to like 8,000. I'm like, holy crap, his channel's blowing up. Yeah. I remember that video you posted where you were responding to the fact that your channel had gone up so high. I'm like, wow, he's really blown up. You finally got your one video that just blows your channel up. And that's usually when your first big break, usually on YouTube. And I've been doing YouTube since 2006. I'm still waiting for that chance.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so the main thing that the takeaway that I've gotten from your channel is exactly what you said. You focus on import games, specifically like retro stuff from Japan, which I appreciate because, like I said, I've kind of gotten into it myself. But before we go there, I want to go back a little bit, because there's a few questions I have from the community and just some I had in general, because I'm still relatively new to your stuff, even though I've been watching a ton of your videos. I wanted to ask you a few things about you. So, obviously, I can tell that you're not Japanese. So, how long do you live in Japan?
I've been here since 2005, so 14 years almost now. Yeah, I minored in Japanese in college.
Okay.
And I think I put a lot more effort into Japanese than I did into my major, which was music. Because I started out because really I wanted to play games that hadn't been translated into English. Somewhere along the way, I realized that most of these things were coming from Japan and that we weren't getting all of them. in magazines, game magazines when I was a kid, every once in a while there would be a corner, a little
Mhm.
article about stuff that doesn't come to America.
Right.
And it was like, whoa, like there's this other universe out.
Mhm.
So eventually I got into that. I came to Japan with something called the JET program, which is a program that the Japanese government sponsors to bring English teachers from abroad and place them with boards of education
Yes.
around the country.
Yeah, one of my closest friends, actually, Brandon, he's done that twice. He's taught English in Japan twice, and he was telling me all about it because he wants to plan a trip with me to go to Japan at some point. I
Yeah,
really want to go,
yeah, so,
but I feel like I need to learn a little bit more, enough of the language, so that I'll be able to, you know, be able to interact to a point where I don't have to like look at a translation book, or open up Google Translate
right.
to to ask simple questions. So.
Yeah, no, even just learning the first two alphabets will get you. Will do a lot. You learn hiragana and katakana. That can be done in a
Yeah,
month.
yeah. There's that app that's out. I was thinking of getting. There's that meme that's going around that it'll remind you if you miss your language lesson or whatever it is, like a Duolingo.
Oh, okay.
So I
Yeah,
was thinking of getting that app just to be like, because if it reminds me, I'll be like, "Did you do your Japanese lesson today?" I didn't, and
that
then it
will
would push me to.
work.
So you were learning you learned the language as part of going to university.
Yes, sir.
And then that sort of led you, you're like, when was the point where you're like, I want to move to Japan, like, to live here, to live
Uh,
there?
I did a short study abroad in the summer one time, in my
Mhm.
junior year of college, and it was great. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and I mean, I had zero career prospects. When I was getting towards my senior year in college, I never thought of the future, or of what I wanted to do with my life or that kind of thing. But then, I think my teachers in the Japanese classes were talking about the JET program and how you can do that. And I mean, I think in the back of my mind, I'd wanted to go to Japan or East Asia, and luckily it worked out. And I
Mhm.
went to the interview and got accepted. So that happened, and it's really lucky that it did because you know the nerd part of my YouTube moniker is really the only accurate part. I've never really been this go getting person kind of who had a career plan and all these.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, the way I look at it, and just from my perspective, is I'm an IT professional, and I've been in the IT industry for over 10 years.
Okay.
But I never like. I always thought this would be my job to fall back on if I can't do anything else.
Okay.
And I remember at one point it was very hard, and I wasn't happy where I was in my life a couple years ago. And the same friend Brandon told me, he's like, just do the just do the teaching in Japan thing. I'm like, well, I don't speak any Japanese. He's like, literally, you don't need to know any
Oh
Japanese, is what
yeah,
he said to
no,
me.
yeah,
Because the play, I guess, like if you do it in Tokyo, you don't need to know any Japanese, even though
absolutely,
it helps. So,
absolutely.
um, because I guess like the kids aren't allowed to talk to you in Japanese; they have to talk to you in English. So,
It depends. It's
yeah.
working post school might be different, but
I guess it depends where you are too, but yeah, I do want to visit sometime because I just want to see. I obviously want to see all the touristy things like Akihabara, and I want to go to the Kamen Rider Cafe because I'm a huge Kamen Rider nerd,
okay, sounds very good.
um, and a couple other things. But yeah, one day. But I wanted to ask you also on the name of your channel because like you've got the name Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd, and you only have a few videos where you're actually like cooking things or doing anything with on a. So
Yeah.
did you just pick a name and you're just like, I'll figure this out later, or how did
No,
that?
sure. So what happened was about 8 years ago. I did a big move once here. I moved kind of from the city I had been living in for about 5 or 6 years to Hiroshima. So I
Mhm.
lived in Hiroshima for about 4 years,
Okay.
and I kind of lost my group of friends at that time. And up until then, I was not healthy. I was sit in my room, play video games, up until the middle of the night, kind of lifestyle eating ramen for dinner often. And I had always been kind of dissatisfied with my body. I was always very skinny. I was 62 kilograms, 135 pounds
Wow.
before I started. I always really didn't like my body, and it just kind of occurred to me one day, well, there's a way to change that if you really want to. So moving to Hiroshima was kind of a chance, and I just happened to be living very close to the biggest gym in the city, or the biggest public gym. So I started working out. I started lifting. I taught myself how to cook from nothing, basically. And I really got into health, actually. And there were a few years where I was barely playing any video games at all. Actually, yeah. No, I kind of got out of video games for a couple of years, which just happened to be around the time when retro gaming became a fad.
Yeah.
Actually, this all ended up happening at the same time. So
it's funny you say that, because you're making me think back. Oh man, because like when I originally started YouTube, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I started a channel in 2006, and I just kind of threw whatever on there. And I had started doing reviews during college in 2007, but then I moved over to doing voice acting for the next like 3-4 years.
okay.
So I didn't really know what I want to do. And then eventually, of course, I went back to doing games. So, it's been that way ever since. But I was probably the same at one point where there was a point in my life where I wasn't playing any games unless it was Monster Hunter. Yeah, that series I'm obsessed with, and it's ironic because like I was the only person I knew around here who played Monster Hunter, whereas I'm sure in Japan everyone and their mother plays it or has at least knows of it
right off the bat in Japan. Whereas I was really shocked a few months ago when I was hearing Kelsey Lewin talk about how it was obscure in the beginning in the West, because I never realized that because it all happened when I was living here.
Yeah. It's funny too. Even my friend Brandon, when he was there, he had no idea what Monster Hunter was, but he knew that it was something because he would see it all the time. But yeah, there was always that weird game, and my friends didn't play that I played from the first one on. I'm eventually going to do a retrospective on all the games that got released here in North America. And of course, it's really blew up because of World, because they fixed a lot of things they should have fixed years ago. But that's a story for another time. So just real quick, I want to talk about your Hong Kong 97 video a little bit. You actually have a few Hong Kong 97 videos.
Sure.
There was an older one, which I guess you got some backlash for.
I pissed a lot of people off. I mean, so when I first got it, I made a video saying, "Hey, world, I have Hong Kong 97." You know what I'm saying? And I was being myself in that video, to be completely honest. I'm extremely excited. I started out the video with a silly intro where I was running back and forth across my house like a crazy person, lying on the ground, picking my feet up in the air. Which excitement! Which if you had it, you would be. You know what I'm saying? But if you have, I literally have 25 subscribers at that time. You know, nobody knew who I was. If AVGN did that, or if Happy Console Gamer did that, people would identify with that person because they're established. They would say, "Oh man, this is awesome." But nobody did it, and I think it pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
They didn't get the fact that I knew that I was joking what I was doing. You know,
and that's the thing. Like, context is always hard to do in YouTube. I find, like, people say context is hard in text. Try doing a video.
It's amazing. People don't understand that something intended as a joke is a joke. But anyways, the point is, I would do it differently now anyways. With another year's perspective after having YouTube. But anyways, and also I didn't say where so, I knew that it was extremely rare. I knew no one had ever seen one. I didn't realize that it had become this urban legend. I think I was underestimating how difficult it would be to believe that somebody had a real copy of Hong Kong 97.
Yeah, because I remember the game, even before James covered it, I had started hearing about it.
Oh, wow.
And this is the funny thing, because I always find out about these weird things that I've never heard of, and then someone popular will cover it, and then everybody knows about it.
Right.
And then the information becomes more available. It's funny. I'm a patron of Norm, the gaming historian.
Yeah.
He just put up a video about this weird gaming chair peripheral that apparently no one has covered on YouTube before. But I guarantee you, now once his video becomes public, they'll be like, give it like 3 months, and there'll be like a million videos on this thing being like, this is the gaming chair that no one's ever seen before.
Right. Are you talking about the Aladdin?
No, not the Aladdin deck in hand, but that was funny that James's video came out like a month after that.
That was kind of weird. I know. I thought the same thing.
He has a new video. It's still on Patreon, so not everyone's seen it yet. But it's this gaming chair for the NES that actually has motion controls. I have never heard of it before. He literally started the video saying out, no one's talked about this yet. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so, because this is the first time I'm hearing about it. But it's just like anything else. Someone will talk about it. More people will be talking about it within a few months, which is fine because it'll increase the conversation. And one of the things I liked about your more recent Hong Kong 97 video is you not only did you cover how you got obtained the game, but you talked about some of the history that I didn't even know about, which I thought was really interesting.
So, I mean, that all came together because in order to find out if the game actually worked, to be able to play it, you need to have an accessory for the Super Nintendo that plays floppy disks, which were made as, game copiers.
Yeah.
They're for Asia. And so I bought one from Europe. They're very difficult to get in Japan. They were illegal in Japan eventually.
Yeah.
And it got messed up in shipping and it didn't work when I got it. So I mailed the person who made Hong Kong 97 to ask if he knew what to do to get it to work. Because he's a pretty established person in kind of the underground circles.
Yeah.
He's around on social media and on the internet still. And he mailed me back. And eventually got it working, and it worked. So we mailed back and forth a few times, me and the person who made Hong Kong 97. And I eventually got the idea to ask him if he would meet me to explain the real whole story of how it happened, because there's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of speculation also. And a couple of few weeks later, he mailed me back and said he would do it. That he would meet me and explain everything. So that was how that whole history video happened.
I'm really glad that you did that, because there's a stigma that happens with people of, I guess, prestige or whatnot. And I'm going to be pulling this back to YouTube as an example. One of my reviews, I got Cadicarus to cameo. And this guy who has 500,000 subscribers, okayed to be in my video. And the thing that I always say to people is like, when people be like, how did you get him to be in your video? I'm like, I asked him.
Right.
Like, it's one of those things where people be like, well, they're this high up YouTuber, they don't want to work with you. He's like, well, the worst I can say is no. So, and I've asked people for this podcast to do it, and some were like, no, I'm not interested, and some were like, not now, and whatnot. And with you, I'm just like, I'll just ask. If he says no, then the answer's no, whatever. Like,
I mean, famous people are just people.
Exactly.
Some people, it probably does go to their head in some people's cases, but
But yeah, and I never look at someone's subscriber count and say it's not worth it, because they're still people, because like you said. So and that's the thing too. And that's one thing that I'm actually really excited that your channel blew up the way it does, because YouTube is harder now than it's ever been.
Oh my gosh. It's not YouTube anymore, it's ThemeTube.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at the fight between PewDiePie and T-Series. T-Series is finally on top, but we'll see what Mr. Beast does to make that change. So, but no, it's funny, because I have so many friends who, if I didn't get the following I have now, years ago, before YouTube changed the algorithm system, I'd probably be in a similar boat that you were in. We're under 1,000 subscribers, hard to push the videos to get people to watch them. And I have a lot of friends who are struggling to even hit that 100 subscriber threshold now. And it's not that they make bad videos; they're pumping videos out like there's no tomorrow. But it's just the algorithms change so much that no one's watching them unless your video's like an hour long, which I don't know. I just never have time for hour-long videos, so I've never been a fan of them. Like the 20-minute mark, 20 to 30-minute mark, that's the sweet spot for me. If it's that long, then I'll have enough time to watch the video. But yeah, it's partially why I haven't caught up with Game of Thrones. But yeah, so enough of that crap. Let's talk about some games, because obviously you have a breadth of work that to many people like myself is like a whole new world. Like I said, I've been importing games for 6-7 years, but I still have only scratched the surface.
Sure.
On importing games. Like, and just for example, when I was making the decision to get a TurboGrafx 16 or a PC engine, I ended up going PC engine.
Yeah.
I'm like, the games are cheaper. Most of what I want, I don't need to know Japanese to play.
Sure.
And it's just like, I literally, like, the most popular games, or the games that I really want for the TurboGrafx, are like a fraction, if not like only 10% of the cost of what they are going over to PC Engine. Like, just for example, my entire PC Engine collection is right here.
Oh, you got cards. Cool. All right.
All Hue cards. I don't have the CD attachment yet because they've gone up in price, and
they have. It's hard to get working ones kind of these days, a little bit more now than before. But yeah, no, PC Engine is a really good example of, like, I mean, some of the best games on the Super Nintendo or the Genesis, if you want them complete, you're talking hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the best games on the PC Engine CD are still like 60. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very affordable.
And it's not just Japanese games, because it's also like Japanese only games. It's also like just some games are just a lot cheaper to get a Japanese version than to get a North American.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I told you I'm a big Mega Man fan. Like, I love Mega Man stuff. You can't see it behind here, but I've got a whole wall of Mega Man stuff behind.
Okay.
And so when I was seriously getting into retro collecting, I think I went to a convention in like 2009, and somebody was selling a ton of Super Famicom games, and I picked up 3, and they were Rockman 7, which is my favorite probably in the series.
Oh, okay, cool.
Rockman X2 and X3. 3 of which each of those games were like already in the $100 range by that time, and I paid, I think, $20 a piece for them.
Sure.
Like, and now, unfortunately, because the price has risen on the North American ones, the Japanese ones have gone up in price too. So I bought them at the perfect time, essentially, before they got high like that. And then there's like gems like Back to the Future on the Super Famicom, which is it's still not that expensive, but it has risen a bit because of all the people who've talked about it, and James, of course. But just seeing some of the games that you talk about that aren't, like, you did a video recently about like affordable import games, I think.
Yes.
And that one really piqued my interest because like, I'm like, because PlayStation with the PlayStation Classic have coming out and all the things you can do with it, I've been getting more into importing PlayStation games, and now I've got Hermie Hopperhead on my list of games to get. So because like, I mean, like, I saw your review of it, and I was like, okay, the game's got some problems, but I've played worse. So
it's good game, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the kind of video that I was very interested in, because it's like, okay, well, these are games that are not super expensive, and he's going over a lot of systems that a lot of people would probably not think of. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that Famicom and Mark III and PC Engine games, they're just way cheaper than their North American counterparts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some of them have a barrier to entry. You got to get, like, for Famicom, you've got to get a converter if you have a Japanese system. And luckily, Super Famicom's the easiest. You just cut some tabs out of your Super Nintendo. And it's really free.
Yeah.
But like it's way cheaper. I think I've some of the harder to get Nintendo games I've gotten on Famicom, and literally the only difference is the language in them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have little Samsung box.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was expensive. It was
Mhm.
like $450, but it wasn't $4,000. You know?
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, Mega Man's a great example. Um, Mega Man 5 is the cheapest one
Oh my god. Why did you say that to me? Because okay, so I have a
because the North American version 5 is the most expensive, is it not?
yeah, I have a history with Mega Man 5. I have all the other NES Mega Man games. I
Okay.
don't have 5. It's my least favorite. I
Funny.
don't really care to have it,
Uh,
but I need it to complete the collection.
yeah,
And I'm just like,
absolutely.
why?
It's like it's on the easier side within the Mega Games. I think the gameplay gimmicks are really good, like the new like tricks, like the low gravity area and those little kind of
Yeah.
things.
Oh, yeah. There's good things about the game. Obviously, I still play the game. It's just out of all the NES ones, it's my least favorite, and it just hurts because it's the most expensive one. And I've come across it several times, but it's
Well,
always
that's
like
I have the same problem
$250.
here. I have the same problem here. One is my least favorite, and it's the most expensive that you can.
I
And feel
will.
like I have.
I can get a copy of one for like nothing for NES. I
Right.
will trade you a copy of one for a copy of Rockman 5.
That's funny. You do that. I know. I didn't do
uh,
my same.
it's funny. I'm doing a video soon because they just EB Games just stopped taking PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 games here.
Hmm.
So they had a huge sale, and my EB Games had 4 copies of Xenoblade Chronicles,
Uh-huh.
and they were doing a deal 4 for $20. And I say, do these qualify? They're like, yep. So I'm just like, I'm just going to buy all 4 copies, and then I'll either trade them or I'll give them to friends who haven't gotten the game yet.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because that game like got price gouged to like $90 essentially once GameStop knew they could make money off it. So
Sure.
that's why I figured I better scoop these up now, and then if somebody else wants them, I can just send them a copy. So
Right. Yeah. So no, the difference of game prices is good to look at, and really, my thing has very much been about because I'm all physical media.
mhm.
I do, no emulation, no repros, no RetroPies, anything like this. Is really I try to focus on which games are actually worth paying the money
Mhm.
to have and keep forever. If you're a person who plays a game.
Exactly, yeah. And I have dabbled a little bit. Like I modded my Wii so I could play Super Nintendo, Nintendo games on it, whatever, for easy access. And I have dabbled a little bit in, like, I have clone consoles that'll do HDMI out for some of the older systems. But yeah, there's nothing quite like playing it on the original system and then getting a good old CRT, if you can still find one that works, to play these old games just like they were intended. But that actually leads me to a follow up question, because I've been curious about your production. Like, what kind of equipment do you use in your
Oh,
video?
for God's sakes, potatoes and nothing, man. Nothing, dude. I have a camcorder. It's literally for, moms to video their kids, sports festival crap. Say, I got a shotgun mic, so that's, it's not so bad. I
Well,
don't
there
even
you go. You're going a step in the right direction.
barely, I I don't even have a standalone sound recorder. I record into the camera. Like it's like zero technology, man. Literally, I have one little light that stands on top of the camera. I can't film at night. I have to film in the morning because I need natural light.
Dude, tell me about it. Like, the only reason I do my podcast at night because this, I guess, has become my aura of
You can
quality
only
for that.
right?
Like, and my actual video, it's funny because I bought a $500 video camera,
Yeah,
and then I got a Samsung Galaxy S9, and this camera is better than the video camera I bought.
I
So
wouldn't
I
be
just use
surprised.
my phone now.
Oh yeah, if I went and got I'm still using my iPhone at 5S. If I just went and got a new iPhone, I could probably film infinitely better videos on it.
it's funny because I used to work with a lot of Apple stuff. I worked for a company who did uh, IT for them for a lot of their stuff. So the Apple stuff I know all about, but a 5S.
I better find out.
Yeah,
I'm old school.
hey, if it works.
Yeah,
But
I don't use my phone for anything.
How do you capture your gameplay?
With the cheapest game capture card you could possibly get your hands on. It's literally just a little thing that sticks into your computer. No special nothing.
Oh, one of those. Yeah, I've seen those around before.
That's why it looks so crappy.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I knew that you were using a standard definition capture card, but I guess YouTube doesn't kill the compression anymore. Because back when I was using those kind of capture cards, any video I did, they just killed the quality of it. So,
really? Well, I mean, for games that I kind of don't have anymore, or like things that are up on World of Long Plays, I'll use their footage as much as possible because they allow you to use their footage if you credit them.
Oh yeah, they're real good, good guys. I had to use some of their footage sometimes for games that I just didn't have time to recomplete. I did actually I did a comparison between Mega Man 9 and 10, and I didn't have time to replay all of 9, so I just used their long play of 9 for my footage.
I do that a lot. Obviously, these obscure PlayStation 1 games I've been capturing because they're just not.
It's interesting because you'll met like when you did your one video about the cheaper to get import games. I literally would have another tab open and I would search on YouTube the game to see if anybody else had played through it, just so I could get a better idea. Because you are showing stuff from the game, but that doesn't always give a full representation. So I just looked and I'm like, okay, this one I might be able to, I would probably get into, this one not so much, kind of thing. And it's interesting because there are YouTube channels out there like SNES Drunk, for example, he's been covering a lot more obscure stuff on the Super Nintendo and Genesis and other things, and it's kind of becoming more of a thing. Even my show, Zero's Maverick Hunting, you tell I'm a Mega Man fan, is I try to focus on obscure, unknown, or underappreciated games. And majority of my stuff's been North American, obviously, because that's where I am. I'm in Canada. But I have been dabbling into stuff that we didn't get because there's a lot, because I just think that people don't realize how many games came out for each system. Like if you just look at the numbers for what came out on the NES compared to what came out on the Famicom and the Famicom disk system, it's like night and day. There's way more games.
And to be honest, a lot of them are total crap. And it's a good thing that we didn't get them. To be totally honest with you. There's a lot of stuff that we just don't need.
And that's one of the things that's been toughest, I think, about going through PC Engine is that a lot of the games I bought are under $5.
Yeah.
And it's a crapshoot. Some of them, if I know what it is, like for example, there's been some games like Ninja Warriors I paid $15 for, but I knew what Ninja Warriors was and I knew about this version of it. But like there'll be other games like I'm pretty sure majority of the games in here are like RPGs. So I don't know why I bought them. I think I just bought a lot of games and off eBay or something and got them. And then there's guys at conventions or game swaps who actually sell a lot of these. These have become more commonly sold here, I think. So I've gotten a few off of them. And a lot of the times, because I don't know Japanese, I'm looking at the picture and I'm hoping I know what game it is. The nice thing about PC Engine is a lot of them have a volume number, so I can just Google the volume number and find out what game it is.
Yeah, right.
But some of them don't, or they stop doing it after a certain while. So a lot of them, I'm just like, I hope I know what this is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just learning hiragana, katakana, just the basic alphabets, that'll get you through a lot of it. I mean, kanji is a much longer.
It's funny because I have a friend, another friend of mine who kind of did the same thing. He went to university. He went to Ohio State to take Japanese language because he wanted to be a translator, essentially. He wanted to do game translation or book translation, whatever could come across his way. And I remember one game I was hunting for, we went to a convention together, was Super the Super Gokuden games for Famicom, the Dragon Ball ones. And the thing is, there's so many Dragon Ball games on the Famicom. I have no idea if the game I'm looking at is the right one. And I said to him, like, does this say Super Gokuden? He would take a second and go, yeah, that looks about right. But the thing that is so interesting to me is that anybody I've talked to who has looked into Japanese say that they can maybe speak and read it at like a third or fourth grade level, which seems kind of low from what I understand. Or maybe they're just selling themselves short. I have no idea. But because I think if you went to university for 4 or 5 years, you should probably know at least enough to hold a conversation. Am I right? Or
there's just so many aspects to it. I just read somebody talking yesterday, I think on a subreddit, saying that people will say learning Japanese to true fluency is like learning 3 or 4 Romance languages. I think that's a little extreme. The kanji set is going to take years. You know what I'm saying? It's just a huge thing to do. I mean, you have to learn 1,000 at least.
Yeah.
Really, 1,000. And if you've never seen them before, I mean, they just look like just these random little pictures.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah. The kind of really big thing about it is that Japanese people, in their true colloquial speech, just have a lot of set phrases and systems where you'll just never understand what they're saying unless you know beforehand. There's just, they drop the meaning halfway through.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you have studied all the words in school, it's just not going to make sense as it is. They'll, for example, they'll say, if you do that, that's the end of the sentence. And it means, well, why don't you do that? But there's go on and on and on. And also, there are tons of, I forget the English words for these things sometimes, like, you know, like classical phrases, you know, like metaphors and kind of things that are very, you know, in daily life. And those, you're just not going to be able to get to them all in a 3-year college course.
Yeah.
For example, a person will say to you, I've got a blister on my ear. Now, just hearing the phrase, I've got a blister on my ear, what does that sound like?
My ear is burning?
It means I'm sick of hearing that.
Oh, okay.
Because I've been
sick of hearing that.
Okay. And I got a blister on my ear from hearing the same thing over.
Man, I'm so glad I don't do translations because I can only imagine. Like, you look at something like right now, I've never beaten Chrono Trigger. I'm streaming it right now for the first time, and I'm playing the Super Nintendo version. And I've had a couple of people go like, when they look at the dialogue sometimes. And I'm like, what's wrong with it? They're like, this translation is terrible.
It's a very hard thing to do. Have you ever played Bangayo on the Dreamcast?
No, but I want to get my hands on it.
Okay, so the English translation is pure insanity, and there's no other way you could do it. So I bought the Japanese version of the Nintendo 64, the original. That was probably one of the earlier games I imported.
Okay.
That was, you know, I was in high school still, and I couldn't read a thing, obviously. And I loved the game so much, I eventually got the Dreamcast version, and the text is pure insanity. I mean, it is a thing of beauty. You've got to play it.
Yeah. And I'll definitely, like, I've been wanting to get Bangayo for the Dreamcast for a long time, but I didn't realize there was an N64 version. Maybe I should just get that.
When I came out for the N64, they ported it to the Dreamcast and changed some things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the original Japanese dialogue is exactly what it is in the English. It's just pure insanity, and there's no context for any of it. It's just nuts. Yeah, so I definitely recommend.
I think it's we've been talking about this for a while, but maybe I'll just give you a perspective of where I came from getting into importing, because as somebody who does not speak Japanese or can read it or anything like that, I'm French Canadian and I can't speak a lick of that language either. I kind of came into it an interesting way. So when Pokemon Black and White came out in Japan, my friend imported them.
Okay.
There's this anime he wanted me to watch for a long time that I refused to watch, and so he made me a bet. He's like, you can pick out of one of these two games if you watch the anime. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And this was back when I could get away with live streaming anime while I was watching it, and so I did that. And for anybody who wants to know, the anime is Kodomo no Jinkan. Don't look it up.
Oh,
Just don't. Just don't. It's not good. So he's like, well, you did it, so here you go. So he sent me I think it was Pokemon White, and because I was already familiar with how Pokemon played, I mean, I'm so familiar with it, I don't even have to look at the screen half the time when I'm playing. I figured it out pretty easily. Of course, I didn't understand a lick of the story because it's all in Japanese, but that was the first time I felt like I played through the entire game. I got through the entire game and I didn't have any problems getting through it. There was maybe one or two times where I was like, okay, they're asking me something. I don't know how to answer it, but I just did my best. So, and when I completed it, I'm like, maybe playing games from Japan isn't that difficult. Maybe I'm just not going about it the right way. And the most interesting thing is the next game I imported was Monster Hunter Portable 3rd HD for the PS3. And again, I already knew all the symbols. I already knew all the button configurations from playing the previous game. So playing that game was pretty simple. I, of course, had a guide, like a wiki or something up, so I knew what items were, because crafting in that game's practically impossible if you can't read it, any of the text. So I just basically, I'm like, okay, this symbol is for this item, and I just matched it all up. And that sort of gave me confidence to say, well, I can play Japanese games. I just have to make sure I don't pick anything where the text really matters. So, and like platformers and fighting games, and beat 'em ups, that's most of the games that I have imported from Japan. Games that do not require you to know the language. And I think it's just a barrier of entry. Like myself, a lot of people are afraid to get into them because what if you get the game and you can't understand what's going on? And that's happened. I bought a Yu Yu Hakusho game on Super Famicom that has RPG elements, and I don't know what's going on, but I just played through a bit of it and eventually figured it out. And that is something that does happen. It sometimes can be a crapshoot, but usually I find if you stick to a few genres, I mean, fighting game is a fighting game. Even if it's all the text is in Japanese, you're going to know what to do, essentially.
Fighters, shooters. I mean, you should be.
Shooters, another good one. Like, there's tons of space shooters that were Japan only. That are the interesting thing actually about shooters is a lot of them are getting ported to PC and put on Steam and then being translated finally. So I guess Steam has added to that. But the reason I wanted to bring all this in is because with this current generation that we're in of gaming consoles, China lifted the ban on gaming. So a lot of companies have put out games. A lot of Japanese companies have put out games to the Chinese market, and because of the way of the three languages that are there, Mandarin, Cantonese, and English, a lot of games have been translated to English by the Japanese companies. So the barrier to entry is even lower now for most games, because if you need to know what the text is, 90% of the time the Chinese version is in English. So just get the Asia version. That's what I meant. But yeah, like there's some instances, like I imported Itadaki Street 30th Anniversary Edition for PS4, and the Asia version does not have English, but luckily the only things I need to know in that game is what the cards do, and somebody's already translated all those. So what I wanted to ask you is, with them going this route, with more games coming out in English, because just so they can sell it in a big market like China, like, do you think that's going to get more people to look at import retro gaming with an easier time to it? Because it's not like it was years ago where you had to play a guessing game. Most stuff's online, but do you think it's going to open it up for more people to get into retro import gaming?
No, I don't think so. To be honest, I don't really think that the modern games with English options are going to encourage more people to get into retro imports.
Mm.
It's they're just hugely different activities. You know, playing modern games and playing retro games. It's like, you know, modern games are meant to be for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like games that come out right now, are pure capitalism almost, you can say. It's like they're measured their success is measured by how many copies they sold. Whereas this was interesting. There was an interview with the president of Treasure in a gaming magazine here recently in Famitsu. And he said very clearly, our goal at the time wasn't really to sell a lot of copies of games. We just wanted to make the best game we could possibly make for people who understand games. So the retro games are judged not by how many copies they sold, but how well they stood the test of time, how well they were made for hardcore gaming gamers. I think it's two very different groups of people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The people who are looking for retro imports and the people who are, want to pick up a copy of, I don't know, Galgun or something, with English options.
I did. It's funny. I did import Galgun from PlayAsia, but of course I got the European version. So
okay, so it was come out somewhere in the West.
So the funny thing about that something I forgot to mention is with the Nintendo Switch specifically, if you import a game from Japan, you don't have to worry about changing the language. If you have a North American system, it already knows that your language is English. Like I was astounded that the new Kamen Rider game could be played in English without needing to patch it. I was like, excuse me, Kamen Rider's not something that people typically think about in North America. Like it's not over here. You have to be kind of a super nerd to know what that is.
Yeah.
So the fact that the game had an English option kind of was insane to me. And the new Super Robot Wars, same thing. If your system's region is already set to North America, the game's in English. Like you don't have to change it.
Right.
It's insane to think about that. But just going back to what you said, like another thing that I think that's really bumped up retro stuff is indie games, because a lot of indie games are made old school style.
Yes, sir. That's a very, very interesting, deep topic that I'm just about to dive into.
Yeah.
I currently know almost nothing about it, so I'm just seeing stuff on the internet and going like, oh, I should be getting into this.
I've been wanting to for a long time because I have this habit of buying indie games because indie games also are fairly cheap. Where I buy indie games and I'll install them and be like, I will play this. I promise I'll play this when I have time. And I've wanted to do a video series on indie platformers that aren't Metroidvanias or roguelites, because unfortunately a lot of them are. And while I like Metroidvanias and roguelites, I just want an old-fashioned platformer sometimes.
Exactly. Yes.
I finally have enough content that I'll be able to do that video. It's just sitting down and actually recording the footage for all the games and whatnot. Like just for example, the Messenger that came out last year, it has Metroidvania stuff, but not till way late in the game. So the game is literally just it's Ninja Gaiden mostly.
Yeah. I actually backed Bushido, so I'll have a physical copy when that comes. They said that's an interesting. That was a Kickstarter where they said the game will be done in 2 years. That's deep. You know what I'm saying?
Don't even get me started on Kickstarters. I spent an embarrassing amount of money on Mighty Number 9.
Oh wow! That's
I own 6 different versions of that game.
That's a long story, I'm sure.
When you're a fan of Mega Man and Mega Man's not making any games, you go to Mega Man's daddy. And I thought that Mega Man's daddy would not hurt me.
Really. Understandable. That's deep. Well, I have Tanzer on the way. I don't know if you've heard of Tanzer.
Tanzer, yes, I have heard of that game.
Okay, so it's arriving very soon.
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for Bloodstained, honestly. But the retro game they made, Curse the Moon, is actually really good. It's like an easier Castlevania 3, which
sure, I played it last time I was back home.
Yeah, it was one of my top games of last year because it was so good. And that's what's so great about indie games. So many of them just they work in the limitations of retro games. So they're just like we're getting new retro games all the time.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, no. Like I'm gonna be getting a new TV and a Switch here in the next couple weeks. Actually, so I'm finally gonna get into all that.
Well, if you play Smash or Monster Hunter, let me know.
I'm fine. I'm very strictly only super old school 2D stuff.
Well, Smash is in 2D, technically.
Technically, yes, it is. That is. I'll be playing Smash Brothers. I will be getting Mega Man 11. We'll be getting Gunvolt.
Both great choices.
Absolutely. The one that I'm really Monster Boy. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that I'm really looking forward to is called Devil Engine.
Devil
This
Engine looks good.
Yeah, indeed, shooter. I'm a friend of mine is one of the people who works with the company that published the English version.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And Blaster Master 2 just Zero 2 just came out. So Blaster Master 0 and Zero 2 are both great games. Especially if you like the NES original.
Are these upgrades?
Well, essentially they're made in the 8-bit style, but they are bigger games, essentially. Mm-hmm. Like let me put it this way. They did like in terms of the graphics and the sound, they stay within those NES limitations. But in terms of like what they can get away with level design and like what they can put into the game, they don't limit themselves there. They're basically just like if the Aladdin Tech Enhancer did what it said it did in Nintendo. That's essentially what their prospect is, and it creates those companies that they're one of my new favorite like game developers because almost anything they make is like fantastic. So like especially if you're a fan of retro stuff, they make a lot of retro throwback stuff.
Definitely take a look at that. Have you got a chance to see FX Unit Yuki?
I have not, no, but I have heard of it.
Okay, so we don't have the CD attachment for the PC Engine yet. That was a huge deal because it was like one of the reasons why I started getting on, social media and started paying attention, to the gaming community on the internet was to find out about people making new games for old consoles.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like I just picked up recently. I backed Sydney Hunter on Kickstarter. That was a Gamester 81's game company made that. It's actually like, and I got the limited edition blue Super Nintendo cartridge and everything, and that's what's so great nowadays is because people are making new games for old systems, and there's so much stuff out there now that even if you're just stay in the retro spectrum, there's going to be new stuff coming out all the time. Like the Dreamcast is probably the most developed for retro system.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like if you want a new Dreamcast game, like it's like there's like hundreds.
Right, literally. Unfortunately, I think I have one of the later models of Dreamcast. I picked up Battle Crust. It won't play it.
See, here's the funny thing. I have two Dreamcasts because I have a power supply issue where it doesn't work half the time, and then I have one that has a bad laser. So I'm going to combine them at some point into one Super Dreamcast, but I just haven't had it. But yeah, like that PC Engine CD game was one I was considering getting, but because I don't have the attachment yet, I haven't had a chance to get it. Though I have been looking at the some of the more modern solutions. Like there's an attachment you can get that replaces the CD attachment, and it just basically you just load the games on SD card instead, which I guess is less genuine, but I mean at the same time it outputs the games in high definition from the system, and it's almost the same price as the CD attachment, so it's like I could get an old CD attachment and find out the laser doesn't work and then spend all this money to get it. Or I could get this new thing that's specifically made to play the PC Engine CD games in a new way. Because one game, like one that I really want to get is what's it called? I just thought Akamacho Dracula X Chino Rondo. Or Rondo Blood. I have it for Wii because I got it on Virtual Console, and of course I have it like other collections and whatnot. But I want the physical CD version for the PC Engine CD.
Okay.
Another one I want is Street Fighter, like the first one, because they did port it to PC Engine CD, which is funny because Street Fighter 2 is a Hue card, and I'd never understood that. So, but whatever.
Well, yeah, Fighting Street is not a good game.
It's not a good game, but because I'm such a big Street Fighter fan, I just want to have the original game. So.
There is a US version, I believe.
There is, yeah, but because I chose the PC Engine over the TurboGrafx, like it's not region free unless you hack it, and I'm not willing to hack it. So,
well, you can play the CDs are region.
Oh, the CD is? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So wait, hold on. Could I technically get a Turbo CD then and plug it in? I don't know. I've got
probably not match.
I have the later PC Engine, like the dark gray one.
Sure.
I think I picked that one specifically because it came with composite out, and I was like, I am not doing RF with this system. I want composite out.
Yeah, no. The shape of the actual consoles will be totally different, so you can't get a North American CD console to attach to it.
Yeah, at least it's not soldered or something.
Yeah, but either. Yeah. No, if you know what you're doing, like
I do not. So I'm just gonna say I'd probably just go Japanese then.
Yeah, basically the CD drives will play CDs from either region.
Well, that's good. That's good to know, and that's and that's what's interesting because I think a lot of people, just for going back to import gaming, got into it with the consoles that are region free. Like the PS3 is a big import machine. I have a ton of friends who half their library is import games.
Wow.
Because there's no region locking on it. The DS is another one. I wouldn't have been able to play Pokemon White if the DS wasn't region free.
Right.
Of course, when it came out in English, I just breezed through the game, and all my friends were like, "You've already beaten the game?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I played it in Japanese."
Right.
So I know that you said you're strictly retro gaming, but it sounds like that you are thinking of things for the future, like getting a Switch and other things.
Oh yeah, no, I'm down with modern games if they're like if that have the old school mentality of being based in skill.
Are you what's probably the how do I phrase this? What's the most modern system you'd go outside of it just being 2D? Like do you play did you ever play anything on like Xbox or PS2 or anything like that?
Essentially, I have an Xbox 360 and only have 2 shooters on it.
Yeah, the 360 was the first system I bought of that generation, and it probably got the least amount of use, to be honest.
Right. Because Cave made a deal with Microsoft over here that they would publish their games.
Yes, actually, I have reviewed one of their games. I had the collector's edition of Death Smiles. Fantastic game, and I have the little like thing that goes on the front of the Xbox 360. So it's always fun when somebody sees my 360. I'm like, oh, you've got a plate on it that has little girls on it.
Like, right, yeah. I have
this conversation.
I have polluted too, also, but I think I have the very last model of the 360, so it might not even fit on it.
Well, probably like the Elite, like the one that's all black and those are the better ones though. They don't red ring.
This is the one that doesn't get the rings of death. But yeah, the Cave stuff. But the last console I was able to play 3D games on was the Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast?
I enjoyed. I done a video a long time ago about 3D games that I, as a retro gamer, can enjoy. That I, as a mainly 2D gamer, like. And the main ones, one of the top ones was called Super Magnetic Neo.
Yes, I've heard of that game.
I always call that game the 3D platformer that Treasure should have made and never did.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do have a follow-up question though that I want to ask is so what about, I guess I should ask, what about new installments of older series? Like, for example, Shenmue 3 is going to be coming out eventually. Are you interested in games like that at all? Like newer installments of older series?
I mean, Shenmue might not be a good example for me personally, but I mean, absolutely. Like, I mean, totally. Like Mega Man 11.
Yeah,
If it,
which is fantastic, and I will be reviewing eventually.
yeah, absolutely. No, I'm like totally down with that. Absolutely. If they keep a similar gameplay style in mind. I'm not interested in games that imitate realism. So Shenmue.
Yeah, I play everything now.
Mhm.
Like the oldest of the old and the newest of the new. I mean, one of the newest consoles I've added to my thing is I got an Atari 2600 last year.
Oh, okay.
I got I was holding out for the Black Vader edition.
Mhm.
And my friend who works at a game store said, "Hey, we got one in. Do you want it?" I'm like, yes.
All right.
And that's a great system to collect for because 90% of the library is under $5. So
Sure, absolutely.
so I've gotten like a handful of games for like nothing. So but yeah, no, it's always like interesting. It's funny because like when I think about it, like the consoles I have, some of them I have like maybe one or two games for. Like they'll be like Master System. I had like two games for it, but
Okay.
I really wanted a Master System and I want to collect for it. It's just really hard in North America to collect for that
Yeah,
system.
yeah, absolutely.
And I just recently got a new adapter for to play Famicom games because the one I had was not very good.
Mhm.
So I ended up getting at one point actually it's a funny story. I got into playing Famicom games because I went with a friend of mine to Chinatown in Toronto and they were selling a knockoff Famicom there for like $20. The
Yeah.
controllers didn't work, but it played the games. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start collecting Famicom games. And then I kind of stopped for a bit because that thing broke. And then I'm just like, I'm just going to get myself an adapter.
Yeah, yeah.
It just took a long time to do that.
Sure. I mean, yeah, in a way, I wish the companies would do more modern installments of older game series as opposed to, updates or just, HD upgrades or whatever re-releases. No, I wish they would make brand new games,
Yeah.
with those established series.
Well, I mean, and Mega Man 11 is a great example because that one basically happened because the collections they sold really well.
Oh,
And it's funny because just a few podcast episodes ago, I interviewed Proto Dude, who runs the Rockman Corner website, which is a Mega Man fan site. And he was on the know for a lot of that stuff because he has people at Capcom Japan that give him information all the time.
okay.
So um, and just hearing some of the stuff that they behind the scenes that made that game happen because Mega Man 11, I don't know if you've had a chance to play it yet or not, but
Ah,
it's about as difficult as the older Mega Man games. The only difference is the visuals. It's essentially the
yeah.
same.
I mean, it
Plus,
looked very hard in the video, at least.
and it's funny because like it's not the hardest in the series, but like it's one of those games where like if you haven't played Mega Man in a while or you're not used to the slightly different physics because it's obviously a 3D game, it's going to be difficult. Like I remember when the demo dropped, I had a hard time getting through Blockman stage. I'm like, this is really hard, and I'm just like, you know what? It's because I'm out of practice. That's why it's really
Yeah.
hard. I did a big review when Mega Man 11, just before Mega Man 11 came out, of Mega Man 8, and that's another example of a game where it's still Mega Man, but the physics are slightly different from
Oh
the
yeah.
other
Oh
games.
yeah.
Like if you do a side by side comparison of an NES Mega Man game, Mega Man 7, Mega Man 8, and Mega Man 11, they all jump slightly differently.
Sure.
And that's the hardest thing for people to get used to is how the jumping physics work. But if you like, once you've got that, it's just like playing any other Mega Man.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Really looking forward to that.
and 11 is definitely made with people who liked the NES games in mind because there's no
Oh,
intro stage.
oh,
It likes to keep things relatively the same as those games were, like the NES ones, with
good.
adding story elements here and there.
Great. Sure.
So yeah, definitely one you should. I recommend that and the. Yeah, I know you said Azure Striker Gunvolt. was one you were thinking of. They're
They
great
put out
games.
another game recently. That company, have you seen? It's called Dragon March for Death.
Yeah, see that one I'm curious about because they sold it as two separate character packs when they could have just made it one game. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, but it's going to be one
physical game, so you can buy the whole thing together.
Yeah, like if Limited Run does a run of that game, for example, or they release a physical version somehow of that game, then I'll get it. I just don't like the idea of them splitting games up like that. Like it's perfect example. DOA 6. My friend is playing it right now. And so he's like, download the free version just to get an idea of it. The free version has 2 characters. If you want all the characters, you do have to spend the regular amount for the game. And then there's costumes, of course. So there's like thousands of dollars worth of DLC for this one game. And that's one thing about modern gaming I don't like is the DLC. Like I remember I bought when I got the Battlefront edition PS4 when I got my PS4, and I remember getting the game and there were 5 maps, and unless you bought the season pass, I've just that's one thing I miss about gaming is like when you bought a game, it was done.
Exactly.
If there was an upgrade, it'd be something weird like Super Street Fighter 2 or something.
Right.
But that's the thing that's nice about new retro games and indie games that most of the time they don't deal with any of that bullshit. The game's done.
Right.
So let me one other thing I want to ask you is what are some of your favorite game series?
So basically I have a very strong thing with Valis.
Valis
series. These are not extremely good action games, to be completely honest. Like the action, the platforming itself, they're 2D platformers. And as platformers, they're usually not really all that amazing. But they were some of the first games where it was an action game, but they gave it the entire presentation of the story and the character personalities and the music was all like very important, given a lot of love. So that was something that really got me into the Sega Genesis and game music. And so I absolutely love the Valis series as far as the series goes. I love Mega Man, of course, you know what I'm saying, but like really as like a series, Valis is my big number one.
I feel like you get along with a Happy Console gamer really easily.
Yeah. He was one of the first people who did a full video on the Valis series as all the different games. Yeah,
and he like has a lot I found out about a lot about TurboGrafx and PC Engine from him because he has like an entire wall of PC Engine games. I'm like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, but like series. The series. The thing is, Treasure is one of my favorite. Is definitely my favorite.
Treasure makes so many good games.
And their rule was no sequels.
Yeah.
And as soon as they broke it, they screwed up and their quality lost. Like when Guardian Heroes Advance came out, good game. It's not bad. It's fine, but it's doing what they didn't want to do. It's just taking advantage of the fact that they had a successful game and they're just making a game with similar gameplay that doesn't introduce anything new.
I love Gunstar Superheroes. I hate that it's on the GBA. It should have been on a console. because half the fun of playing Gunstar Heroes is playing it with another person.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and if you wanted to play, and because that game is so hard to find now, I have yet to find somebody else who has a copy of Gunstar Superheroes and wants to play 2-player.
Right.
And I recently finished Gunstar Heroes for the first time because I'm not as much as I'm good at like Mega Man. I'm good at platformers. I'm good at running guns. I'm still. If you ask me to do them solo, I'm not very good at them. Like the furthest I've gotten in a run and gun solo is Metal Slug, like one of the Metal Slugs I got near the end. But my friend was a real big fan of Gunstar Heroes. I always wanted to beat it, so we played it. And I was thinking back the other day, I'm like, God, I have Gunstar Superheroes, but I'm never going to finish it because the game is just, shouldn't have been on the system. It's just hard to play on a handheld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. It's like, I know why. again, why did they switch over to where they were almost only making things for the handhelds? That was ridiculous. And I think one reason was for that is that time 2D got relegated to handhelds, where
Pretty
people
much, yeah.
thought it wasn't good enough for consoles, which was, as you can imagine, pissed me off. That
which ironically, because like a lot of some of the best 2D games are on like PS2 or like Wii, like Masamune the Demon Blade is a fantastic game.
sure.
But and it's all 2D, but like because it doesn't really use the motion controls a lot, people really didn't care about it.
Right, yeah, you have Vanillaware. They're crazy.
And Vanillaware, like Treasure, like there's a lot of great game studios out there that still that made a ton of great games. And I think it's interesting that Treasure had a no sequel rule for a long time because that kind of kept their games of quality. Of course, it's made a lot of their games rare now because because without having sequels, people don't know about the original games, and then of course when people find out they're really good games, the price goes up. But that's a collective problem.
Sure.
So
I mean, apparently they left Konami because they were tired of making sequels.
Yeah,
which is why they made that rule.
And look at where Konami is now.
I know, it's very sad.
And that's interesting because like with Inti Creates being one of my favorite developers, like a lot of the stuff they do sequels, but when they do a sequel, like it's serious business. Like Blaster Master Zero 2, it's a $10 game, but it's like doing very, very well because people really liked the first one and the second one's even better. And that's the mentality it should be. If you're going to make a sequel, make it better than the previous one, or like do something new that's going to make it better. And
yeah, absolutely.
I know that you said that you like to leave like more bigger like history videos to people like Norm, but do you plan to do any more like games videos going over games history, or maybe like something Japanese that a lot of us don't know the interesting
like
history to?
Project or something like that. Yeah. I would love to do it again. Absolutely. It's it was fun. It was amazing, getting to experience that. It was a blast. I'm not really sure what I would go over. Maybe one of the things would be the video game music bands that were popular here in the late 80s and early 90s. That is something that's very difficult to sink your hands into if you're not physically present.
It's funny you mentioned that. I saw Capcom live back in November.
Okay.
And that was amazing.
All right. Yeah. So like their original band called Alf Lyra. So it was a thing, and a few of them have reformed. The bands that were popular, and Sega's band is kind of performing again. Data East's band has been performing again. That could be something really interesting. One thing that I would really like to do, that I kind of had the idea after going to the Tokyo Game Music Show and meeting some of the old game composers earlier this year, is if I could, start to, build more of a following, where if I had money coming in through Patreon and then ad revenue, is get people on the show and do interviews on camera. Because, some of these game musicians, there might be a very big group of people who love their music, but, there's almost zero information about out there. So that's something I would really like to do.
That's very interesting. I think you should, as a viewer of yours, I think you definitely should do that because that sounds really awesome, and I feel like you'd probably be able to give a very unique perspective on.
Yeah, absolutely. It would take some money because I would have to, be the professional people. I'd have to pay them, and I'd probably really have to bring them here as opposed to going to Tokyo. But it's definitely possible. I think so.
That brings up a follow-up question. Do you have a Patreon?
Not yet. It's going to hopefully come out within the next month or so.
Okay. I've been telling people, even if you're not looking to activate it yet, go make a creator's Patreon before May because they're changing the rules. Really? And they're making it so they're going to be taking a bigger slice to anybody who, and they're changing what people are allowed to do after May. Like they're going to have to make it so you get a certain number of audience members to join your Patreon before you get a payout, things like that. So even if you're not going to use it for a while, I would just make one as soon as possible. Just set up a $1 tier and just say, hey, this is my Patreon. I'll set up the tiers later kind of thing.
Sure.
Definitely do that. been bugging one of my friends to do it because I'm like, come on, time's running out. Eventually, you won't be able to make one.
Right. Hey. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's May 6th or 7th. They're changing the rules, and I spoke to Patreon directly because I have a Patreon account, and I said to them, like, these rules are not good. Like, you guys should not be doing this. Like, you're hurting the creators, whatnot. And they gave me a very one note. Well, we have to stay competitive, and I'm like, we're competitive against coffee. Coffee's not stealing your money, so it's just like, I don't know. It's highly recommend, especially somebody. For you're in a position now because you have a mass following that people are more likely to back you on Patreon if you have one. So highly recommend you do that. If I could give one piece of advice, go make that Patreon.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to do that because I was waiting because, I was thinking like I should wait until the tiers are really clear and I understand how Discord works. I'm just made an account on Discord. And I'm thinking the first tier will be like, okay, you have access to the Discord chat.
All right, you're getting an invite to my Discord server then. Because then there's because I have a lot of I am part of a website called River City Gamers, and we all are game reviewers and we make our own videos, and then it's just a good place to interact with other folks who are like-minded. A lot of people who are into retro gaming, so be a good place if you need some advice on stuff too. Like especially because I assume as time goes on, you're probably going to increase your production value, which I can give a lot of advice on. Because I've used the shittiest of the shittiest equipment, and now I'm on some of the best. So definitely can help out there. Another thing I wanted to ask you about your channel is, do you plan to ever do a full well, maybe not full series, but like maybe 3-game or more series overview, like Dallas, for example?
I did
you did Valis, yeah. I know you did that one. But is there anything else you're thinking of doing?
No, I will do some. That's something that will come up a few times. I just did the Cooking Action Puzzlers by Media Entertainment. That was basically a trilogy.
Yeah.
No, that will definitely happen. I can't quite think of anything that I'm planning on doing immediately. Because definitely one thing I will be doing almost certainly is compiles games for various consoles. Like I'll probably do a video compiles games on the PC engine, compiles games on the Nintendo.
Yeah, compiles, and I'm glad you said compile because they have a lot of great games.
Oh, for God's sakes, absolutely! In fact, I'm probably about to buy Game Gear Alesta, which is like $500. I'm finally in a position where I make a decent amount of money, but even still, when I see prices on things, like I'm like, I buy very, very few games.
Yeah, I thought about getting the Mega SG, but at the same time, I'm like, I need to save up for other things right now. So.
Sure, yeah. But I don't have a TV that can play it yet.
You don't have an HD TV?
A 13-year-old LCD TV. Has no HD input.
Okay, there's a point when you have to say I am only a retro gamer, but maybe I should get to the year 2019.
I'm telling you, man. Well, part of it was wanting to be able to play the Mega SG and the Super NT. Part of it was, wanting to buy a Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just part of it was wanting to have a bigger TV. So I'm still using a 47. So.
I mean, I'm not one to talk. I have a 35-inch CRT in this room, but I also have my HD TV in here too. So, especially playing the PC engine, I don't like playing it on my new TV. I got to play it on the old school one. It just looks better.
Sure.
And certain games do. Though, luckily, I've gotten into the whole, getting better picture out of old systems. Like, there's new cables being released. I'm not one of those weirdos that goes and buys his $500 frame meister.
Right now, yeah.
Because I'm not crazy like My Life in Gaming, where they buy thousands of dollars worth of equipment to get an old system to play high definition. I just go for the cheap stuff because I'm like, if it plugs into an HDMI, I'm good because then I can capture it and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I understand. No, I'm somewhere in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm not willing to buy 3 cords to get something hooked up to SCART. You know what I'm saying? But
I mean, if you did, like, you at least live in a region where you could get the not SCART, but whatever the Japanese equivalent to SCART is.
The 21 pin. There's a
Yeah,
Japanese.
the RJ21 or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Even
But you
that
can't
world.
mix them up, which is the thing that always freaks me out.
Yeah. That world is completely foreign to me. I've been using S cables forever.
Like literally, like I have beside me the Super Retro Trio Plus HD just so I could play Famicom, NES, SNES, and Genesis games in HD. It's not perfect, but it makes it look a lot better on a new TV.
Oh yeah,
so.
Yeah. No, I mean it's 98%. The way there. So
though it has become easier because there's that Retro Tink, which literally is just a line doubler for the older consoles.
Yeah, I did just look at that. I mean I'm thinking FrameMeister, but RetroTink might be able to.
I mean, FrameMeister is like the Rolls Royce of like connecting old consoles to a newer TV. Like it's the Rolls Royce of getting the best possible picture. But the RetroTink it's $100 box, and it basically you don't have to do any additional stuff. You can just set the settings you want and go from there. So barrier entry is lower, but you'll find out all about that when you get a new TV.
It's ridiculous. I've been reading. It's God give me a headache. I mean, just there's people are just like, yeah, and then you connect it to RetroTink to the SCART to the RGB. I'm like, wait a second.
The nice thing about the RetroTink is it goes right from the old consoles to HDMI, so you don't have to do any of that bullshit.
I'm considering that, but I'm willing, for example, like I am willing to pay $150 for like the dedicated HD output for the GameCube.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's mid-level. Do that.
Yeah, for me, as long as it's S video or up, I'm good with the quality because I can capture those or I can upscale those. So that's usually where it comes from. That's been my dilemma with PC Engine because it doesn't look because I opted for the composite system, but playing it on a modern TV is not good. So I just kind of stick to the old TV for that. But
I see. Yeah. I mean, and even on LCD, it looks really good with composite just because it has relatively within the world of composite good output.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think it's native RGB too, so you don't have to mod the system, which is nice. Because a lot of them you have to. But anyways, enough about video connections. I have some questions from the community that I would like to ask you. I didn't get a ton because I kind of did the call for questions really late because I was like, oh yeah, I should probably see if anybody wants to ask questions for this. So one question that I got is, what is your what's the next thing for you?
All right. So I'm just going to spill the beans right now. This is something I have not told a whole lot of people about. Okay. I made this YouTube channel with the intention of becoming famous enough in the gaming community so that I could run a Kickstarter and make a modern sequel to an old gaming series. And also, I would have to have enough recognition to where I could go up to the company that owns the rights to it and say, hey, I'm this person, I want to do this. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit further off in the future. That might be the next thing. Mm-hmm. But that is actually the final goal of all this. The goal of this was not actually to make ad revenue. It was I kind of, as I, I'm 37 now, and it started to get to the point where it's like, well, I'm not going to live forever. What is it that I really want to do with myself? And if I want to make a game. That's what I want to do. I want to make a game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
did you say you were 37? Because you don't look 37.
I'm 37 years old. I'm balding like hell, man.
Oh. Well, thanks. I just turned 30, so I feel like a babby compared to you. But
I grew up with the NES. Yeah, when we were 7 and I got the Nintendo.
That's a good goal to have too, because like I've always seen YouTube as a hobby. I've gotten to the fact that I'm like, my peak subscribers I'll ever get, it will probably be in like 2,000 subscribers. I'll never probably get past that. So it's just a hobby to me. I just like telling people about games.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I want to get to the hundreds of thousands, to be completely honest. Mm-hmm. That goes 100,000.
Well, I'm hoping that you get there too, because I think your content's worth it. And with having a goal like you got like that, now that we know, that's a very ambitious goal, and it's definitely achieved.
Yeah, no, I think so too. It would be nice if I could like do a collaboration with somebody established.
Mhm.
You know, like you know what I'm saying? Like to be a guest on the Metal Jesus Rock show.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna have to go to San Diego though.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned that because one of the troll questions one of my friends said is be like, so when are you gonna collaborate with Zeromaster?
That's what we're doing right now. Well,
Oh, I see the cop out answer. No, I'm kidding.
a lot of people on the Hong Kong 97 history video were like, all right, we're waiting for the collaboration with AVGN, which is completely I had the idea. Have you ever seen the interview videos by Weird Al Yankovic?
Oh,
where
yes.
he superimposes himself interviewing.
Yeah.
I had an idea. Maybe I don't even know if I should say it. I had the idea to do a video in that style with me and James. Not an interview exactly, but where I like show up as doing green screen. Like it would be back and forth, and it wouldn't be just one episode. You have to do
That'd be funny.
It would be
I mean, James is one of those people who's just getting into import stuff. Like he did that. I was shocked when he did his Power Rangers review, and he started with Super Sentai games. I was like, and then he started singing the Jew Ranger theme, and I was like, oh no, here we go. But so like, I would say never because who knows? Like tomorrow you could get an email being like, "Hey, I see you do the import games. I need the help with that collab." Yes,
it could be possible. We mailed back and forth. I mailed him when I got home from
mm-hmm. Yeah,
and told him I think I have a real copy. Yeah. So we mailed back and forth a couple times. I don't think he thinks much of it, but
yeah,
it happens. So it's out there. But I mean, like the next thing I'm doing, I'm hoping, I don't know if this will be anywhere near as big as the Hong Kong 97 video, but I did translate the story from one of that guy's books. I don't know if you kind of saw that. There was the video where I read some excerpts from his books.
Yeah.
And I promised that if I passed 1,000 subscribers, I would translate one particularly foul story. So that's coming up very soon. Yeah.
Do you this is just another question I thought of. Is there anything that you're like that's Japanese only that you feel would make waves with non-Japanese speaking people that you're like I could somehow use my my bilingual ability to somehow make this more accessible for people because it's not very accessible right now. Like, is there anything like that you've been looking at?
There's definitely a number. There's one really big one that I really hope will resonate with some people. There is a horror game on the PlayStation 1 here in Japan that there's an urban legend floating around on the internet, people who know it, that the physical game itself is haunted, is cursed. Because it uses digitized graphics of real pictures. And that supposedly had spirits in them or they kind of messed with them. This is it's actually a shockingly fun game. It's actually a really well game also. And it's very, very peculiar. So I'm going to do a video about that. A friend of mine suggested I should like try to find like an old house or like an abandoned building somewhere and like film it there. So I'm kind of still like thinking about those things, but there is stuff like that. There's tons of like Japan only games that I still really think should get to be known, by the English speaking audience.
Because there is a lot. I'll just saying as somebody who strictly speaks English, there's a lot of stuff that I wish I could play, but there's not enough. There's too much Japanese text for me to even get through the menus and stuff. Like there's a game I bought on Super Nintendo it's kind of a strategy space game. I've seen people play it, but like I kind of have to it takes me twice as much time to play even a level of that game because I have to go to YouTube and watch somebody go through the menus and do it myself. So that would definitely be something that'd be interesting. And I just reminded myself, a friend of mine, SCR, he did a whole retrospective on the Bloody Roar series, and for one of the episodes, he focused on the Japanese only manga. And at that time, he had only taken Japanese in college for like 2 years.
Mhm.
So I was even impressed with the level of what he was able to do to explain the story of the manga based on his limited knowledge of the language. So
Sure.
it's and from what I've heard from other people is that a lot of stuff like that, like manga and games and stuff and whatnot, the language is not that complicated because kids have to be able to understand it. So I feel like something like that would make a lot of sense. And even like I've even been told that anime is like not that complicated in its language. So that's why a lot of people who start off there start to learn from watching that stuff. But yeah, I like there's tons of things that I'm like, I wish I could play this if I only knew what they were saying. So be really cool.
Yes, that's I mean, that's hopefully going to continue to be the focus of the channel. I would really just like to continue reviewing games. With the suddenly going from 700 to 10,000, viewers.
Oh yeah.
I realize now it's tempting to like try to look for topics that you think are going to be acceptable or palatable.
And so you're in an interesting position because while you want to grow your channel, obviously you now have a bigger audience. So if there's a video that you were waiting on doing because you wanted to introduce to more people, you now have a better opportunity to do that. So, and like there's been tons of stuff that I've been working on. I have a video series I'm working on for a while on the Rushing Beat 'em up series.
Oh wow.
Because I got all of the original games in North America, and then that 3-pack got released. So I did that. Of course, it also came with Tough Enough, but that game haunts my dreams, so I just don't play that. But yeah, there's lots of stuff like that I thought about doing. There is even some import games that I know what they're talking about because I've seen another piece of media that relates to it. Like I want to do a series eventually on the Super Robot Wars games. Because once you know what to click on, the games are all the same.
Sure.
Like I have a box copy of Super Robot Wars for SNES, and the menu is basically the same as it is in the new one. So it's just another example of a game that I don't need to know any Japanese because I know what's going on essentially. But yeah, that would be really cool. And one more question that I got, and this is another kind of like trolley question and just a little bit of a backstory. I streamed when I stream, I usually have quite a few of my friends with me. And I don't know how the discussion got into it, but we started talking about pizza.
Okay.
And there was a whole argument about pizza. So my friend Doom wants to know your opinion on something related to that. I'm just pulling the question up now. What did he say? Oh, his question is, what makes a good pizza? Like a legit, good, healthy pizza.
Healthy or delicious?
Give us both. Why not both?
You know what? I've discovered now. It's that Italian sausage is the most vital flavor of pizza. I mean, pepperoni, I love it, but sausage takes it to that place.
I'm not a big sausage guy, but I love Italian sausage on pizza.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, that's funny because there's actually a Domino's here close to me. And Japanese pizza can be abominable, but the Domino's is pretty damn nice. And they do 3 for the price of 1 on Wednesdays. And I just ate the crap out of pizza.
You are not the first person to tell me that. My buddy Brandon actually told me that Japanese pizza is not good. So, when he was teaching in Japan, he's like, one day he's like, you know what? I want a pizza. And he's like, I immediately regretted my decision.
Yeah. Seaweed and squid pizza, this kind of stuff.
That doesn't sound that bad, but I'm weird, so.
I can't hold it. But yeah, I don't know. I think really that just traditional, that's my thing. I'm not a thin crust person.
I like it all. Unless there's pineapple. People who put pineapples on pizza are heathens.
Hawaii, you can't do Hawaiian. I can handle it. It's not my favorite, but I can enjoy it.
I know I'm Canadian and I don't like Hawaiian pizza because we invented it, but whatever, I don't care. But anyways, that's basically the main part of the podcast. So now I want to get to the part where we talk about more of what we're working on. Is there anything do you have like an upcoming video you want to talk about a little bit before we move on from there?
It's hard to pin it down to just one. I mean, the reading of the translation could definitely be interesting to people who enjoy Hong Kong 97 level of foul stuff.
God,
because it's awful. The idea is, I am still looking for the article, the original article that Hong Kong 97 was advertised as. It was just this tiny little thing. The guy said he'll go to the National Library and look for me if he has time, which is questionable. But if we can find that, in searching for it, I've come across a number of articles written by him. And I'd like to do another video about kind of talking about the stuff he wrote about, because he has other games, and kind of see glimpses of those in that. Really, I would like people to go back to some of my older videos. I would like people to watch one video in particular about a PlayStation 1 game called Kitchen Panic.
See, I've been slowly doing that because in the job that I work, there's a lot of downtime. So so sometimes I'll just have a video going up while I'm working on things. And your channel's been one that I'm like, I subscribe to this guy. I've only seen a few videos. I'm going to start watching a bunch of them so I know, because I know what that YouTube grind is like. And I know that some of your videos only have like 600 views. So I'm like, this has to be a good video. I better check it out.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I feel that I used to get, oh God, back in the day, I used to get thousands of views on videos. Now I'm lucky to get 100. So that grind is real. So if I can just add just another view to a video, I will.
Right. There's a PlayStation 1 game, a 2D platformer. It's called Kitchen Panic. It looks like a kid's game. I think it's harder than Ghouls and Ghosts, Ninja Gaiden, and Castlevania combined.
Oh my God, really?
It's the platform of all time. There's probably less than 5 people on Earth who have beaten it 100%. I'm one of them. I'm probably the only English speaker who's beat it 100%, like for real. So I hope people get to play that game. I need people to feel my pain. What I want.
All right. So Kitchen Panic, do not play with objects around. Got it.
But yeah, how about you?
Oh, for me, I have a big video I'm working on. Actually, it's funny. I'm collaborating with another YouTuber. We're doing a Kamen Rider-esque gaming video because the Heisei era is ending. So, and like most people in North America, who know even what that is, we associate it with tokusatsu. So, but yeah, so we're working on a collaborative thing to celebrate the end of the Heisei era and the beginning of the Reiwa era. And also I just have a couple of big reviews. My Mega Man 11 review is in the works. I need to finish. I finished the Xbox One version and the PS4 version. I need to finish the Switch version, and I'm doing a playthrough of the PC version, but my PC's not really that good. So
what are the differences between the versions? I guess I'll have to wait to your video.
The spoiler alert, the biggest difference is the PC version looks the best if you have the hardware for it. It's like, you wouldn't think it would make that big of a difference, but holy heck, it does. Like, if you have really good hardware, the PC version is phenomenal looking. But there are little differences, like the Switch version has extra content because of the amiibos and stuff like that. So there are little things that each version does. So plus, I like to be thorough when I talk about Mega Man. Like when I did the reason I spent a long time to do my Mega Man 8 reviews because I wanted to get my hands on the Saturn version before I covered it. So luckily, a friend of mine happened to have it and just told me, yeah, you can borrow it. And I'm like, okay.
Right on.
So yeah, that's how that video got finished. But yeah, just a bunch of a couple of bigger projects that'll probably come out during the summer. But mostly just smaller stuff right now. Like I have a bunch of indie games I'm going to be reviewing. One.
Your video of the Indie 2D platformers.
Yeah, that is one I really want to do. I just I need to find the time to record all the games. So because there's going to be I'm going to be covering 10, 20 games in that one video. So but eventually I'll be getting to that one. And the Rushing Beat one's one I'm working on as well. It's just I think I can't remember which one. I think it's the Peacekeepers is really, really hard near the end of the game, so I've been struggling with it. But it'll eventually come out. So that's basically it for me. Other than just more podcasts and other stuff, I do Let's Plays and stuff. People who follow me know all about that crap, though. And is there anything you want to promote of your own, whether it be your own or something you're working on, or where people can find you, for example?
I mean, as far as myself goes, I'm on all the major social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Okay.
Same name. I was always Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. But really, I just want to tell people, if you want to know more than Mario and Zelda, I'm gonna keep doing this. There's awesome Japanese games that still, despite my thing was, you go on YouTube and it kind of feels like everything's been
in
the game, but being here, it's not. I can tell you, there's still really trippy stuff out there. So I mean, if you enjoy old school games, if you enjoy 2D games, if you enjoy odd games, keep checking out the videos. It's not only Hong Kong 97.
Yes. As somebody who is a viewer and a subscriber, I can say he has a lot of great videos like that. The one we talked about, the Hermie Hopperhead. Is it Hermie Hopper? Yeah, Hermie Hopperhead. Watch that one, for example. That's a good video. But yeah, people know where to find me. I have my social media thing will probably come up here on the screen. Facebook Zeromaster fan page, Twitter @Zeromaster, Patreon if you want to get early access to videos like this, behind the scenes extras, and other stuff that I throw up on there. It'll be on there as well. And I stream on Twitch every Tuesdays and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's another thing you might want to start doing on Twitch. Just especially with the type of games that you have, I could see you being very popular on Twitch. Because it is hurting for Japanese games, though you might have trouble labeling some of your streams from time to time because their database of games is kind of limited when it comes to import stuff. But also, if you want to support me at the same time as supporting indie devs, I will have an affiliate link down in the description below to Indie Gala. There's a couple of bundles there, and if you want to save money on games and support me and indie devs at the same time, you can do that. As well as the Brave browser is available. If you don't know what the Brave browser is, it is essentially developed by the original creators of Mozilla, so Firefox, and is designed to protect your information while browsing the internet. So you want to protect yourself and also, again, support me without, in this case, spending any money, download the Brave browser. But anyways, Chris, I want to say thank you so much for coming to do this, because I know with us being on different time zones, it probably was a bit hard to get us to link up on this. But I want to thank you for your time and taking the time to just sit down and discuss things with me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I was hoping to be able to get on a podcast at some point and talk about great games.
Well, if anything, I'm the low point in the totem pole, so you can only go up from here. But yes, and obviously for those of you who want to see more of what Chris has to offer, the Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd channel at 10,485 subscribers as of this moment, and you could be 10,486. So head on over to his channel and check him out.
Yeah, people are saying, "Ooh, I got here before 2000." You could be the person saying, "I got here before 100."
You should get the PewDiePie merch, get the 5,000 club. I'd like to have that. All right. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you next time on the 100 Base Podcast. Take care and have a good night.